A New York Times contributor declares that whiteness is a pandemic, all as Florida Governor Ron DeSantis bans critical race theory from his state. In this video, we're going to take a look at the shooting the other day in Atlanta and the vitriolic reactions coming from the far left, what critical race theory is really all about, and why Governor DeSantis has banned it from Florida's public schools. You're not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Steve here with you. Wonderful to be with you as always. We're here to give you each and every single day conservative hope in the midst of these turbulent and trying times, helping you think better so you can feel better and provide for you a patriot path to freedom. So make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. And before we begin here, make sure to click on the link below and head on over to my special website for my Patriot food supply. As we saw with this whole pandemic insanity over the last year, we cannot wait for an emergency to happen before we respond to one. And no one makes preparing for an emergency more ridiculously easy and affordable than my Patriot supply. Gang, they're simply the best. And food kits last up to 25 years in storage. They include breakfast, lunches, and dinners. And if you act now, you can save $50 off a full 4-week emergency food supply when you click on the link below to my special website. So do not wait. I've got my food supply. Make sure that you get yours. Click on that link below or go to preparewithsteve.com and save $50 off your very own 4-week emergency food supply today. All right, gang, let's dive right in here. As I'm sure you all know by now, there was a horrible mass shooting in the city of Atlanta yesterday. The suspect, Robert Aaron Long, a white man, is accused of killing 8 people at a number of massage parlors, 6 of whom were Asian. Police are saying that the suspect may have been a patron, and he claimed to be frustrated over what he called his sex addiction. Again, according to police, his rationale for the shooting was that these locations incited him to act on his sex addiction, so his shooting spree he thought would eliminate the temptation. So that's the reason that was given, or was reported to have been given, by this accused assailant. But that reason does not seem to be good enough for our left-wing activists disguised as journalists in the media. Look at some of these headlines. This is from the New York Times. 8 dead in Atlanta spa shootings with fears of anti-Asian bias. Or this one from CNN. Unsettling questions surround the motive behind 3 Atlanta area spa shootings as Asians in the U.S. face increased hate. But the king of them all comes from the online digital magazine The Root. Look at this. Whiteness is a pandemic. Whiteness is a pandemic. It's an astonishingly racist title, and as Fox News has reported, the fellow who wrote the piece has indeed written for the New York Times. Here's a taste of what he wrote. Quote, "Whiteness is a public health crisis. It shortens life expectancies. It pollutes air. It constricts equilibrium. It devastates forests. It melts ice caps. It sparks and funds wars. It flattens dialects. It infests consciousness, and it kills people. White people and people who are not white, my mom included. There will be people who die in 2050 because of white supremacy-induced decisions from 1850. White supremacy is a virus that, like other viruses, will not die until there are no bodies left for it to infect, which means the only way to stop it is to locate it, isolate it, extract it, and kill it. I guess a vaccine could work too, but we've had 400 years to develop one, so I won't hold my breath." It's a short piece. You can read it in about a minute. It's a dumb piece. It's poorly and pathetically argued. It's littered with non sequiturs. But that doesn't explain why a piece like this was written in the first place. I mean, this raises the question, what's going on here? What happened to our nation? Why do so-called journalists feel the need to make comments like this, so blatantly racist accusations like whiteness being a pandemic, when the alleged killer himself gave a thoroughly non-racist rationale for his actions? In a word, or better a term, much of this comes down to what is called critical race theory. And this is something we're going to have to get our heads around if we're going to meet this challenge head on. Now, to give you a sense of what critical race theory is, let me read you something from a manual compiled by Affirmative Action Officer Carolyn Pitts. Check this out, okay? I'm quoting her here just so you get a real sense of precisely what this theory entails. Quote, "In the United States at present, only whites can be racist. since whites dominate and control the institutions that create and enforce American cultural norms and values. blacks and other third world peoples do not have access to the power to enforce any prejudices they may have. So they cannot, by definition, be racist. She goes on to say, all white individuals in our society are racist, even those free from conscious prejudice, because they receive benefits distributed by a white racist society through its institutions. Our institutional and cultural processes are so arranged as to automatically benefit whites just because they are white. Gang, that is what is called critical race theory. It was brought to the United States by members of what's called the Frankfurt School in the 1930s and 40s. So these are Marxists, okay? These are cultural Marxists like Herbert Marcuse and Max Horkheimer and Theodor Adorno. They're all radical professors who came to the United States from Europe during the rise of Hitler and World War II. And they started teaching students a Marxist conception of life in the guise of what's now known as critical theory. And the guiding principle of critical theory, and this is absolutely key, was to produce an account of society that assumed that society was made up of intentional power discrepancies that deliberately intend to oppress people. Again, this is the assumption that society is made up of power discrepancies where some people get to impose their view of the world on others, and they always defend the status quo to protect their arbitrary power advantages over others. So what critical theory seeks to do is to supposedly unmask and reveal this arbitrary domination found in every Western society. Every Western nation is, by definition, assumed guilty of imposed power discrepancies that deliberately disenfranchise people. And once exposed, and justice is supposed to kick in and provide paths to emancipation. It is thoroughly Marxist. There's a bourgeois, there's a proletariat, there is exploitation. And so what we're hearing from the likes of these left-wing activists disguised as journalists is nothing more than neo-Marxist critical theory applied to race and racial relations in the United States. And so what you can do is you can literally fill in the blanks. Now that you have your Marxist structure of victim and victimizer categories, all you got to do is fill in those categories with different racial actors. So whites get put in the category of oppressor. Blacks and minorities get put into the category of oppressed. And then the drama, the dynamics surrounding the deliberate intention by whites to oppress non-whites gets played out historically and in current events. And then once the oppression is diagnosed and exposed, we are all supposed to come together united in calls for social justice and liberation. You see, instead of class categories, bourgeois and proletariat, we now have racial categories, whites and non-whites, right? And this is key. Given the drama of oppression, if you belong to the oppressed class, you are allowed, screw that. You are expected, you're obligated to raise your voice in disgust and denunciation against the oppressive class. Silence is compliance. And that's what we're seeing in these articles coming up. We're seeing a vicious ideology that foments racial hatred and disdain for our nation. And that's precisely why Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is stepping up and challenging critical race theory head on. Now, before we get into that, if you are looking for an encouragement and a hopeful alternative to all of the fake news nonsense that's spewed out there on a daily basis with these cultural Marxist leftists we hear on CNN and MSNBC and the like, you're going to find no better antidote than what's in the pages of my book, The Return of Christendom. Now, do not take my word for it. Just read through the reviews on Amazon, over 260 of them, and you'll see how this book cuts through all the cynicism and despair that we so often feel living in this crazy, nutty, globalist world. In page after page, I give you all the data, the stats, the indicators that show nothing less than a new conservative Christian majority emerging throughout the United States and even in Europe. And it's already, gang, transforming the world map into a more nationalist, populist, and traditionalist world. And if you click on that link below, we're offering it now for a limited time at 50% off. That's right. That's 50% discount. So do not wait. It's a limited time offer. Click on the link below. Get your book at a super discount today and arm yourself with the information you need to crush fake news once and for all. All right, gang, the Washington Examiner is reporting that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has declared as of Wednesday of this week that critical race theory would no longer be permitted in Florida's public schools, calling critical race theory curriculum divisive, racist, and anti-American, which is precisely what it is. In his formal announcement, Governor DeSantis said, quote, "There is no room in our classrooms for things like critical race theory. Teaching kids to hate their country, to hate each other, is not worth 1 red cent of taxpayer money." Amen to that. And this is precisely what other red state governors are going to have to be doing. This should be the standard policy in all red states, which are, of course, during the Biden years becoming sanctuary states. Every single red state governor, all 30 of them, should, as of today, declare critical race theory officially banned, not just from public schools, but like President Trump did, it should be banned from any and all government departments and activities. Then you're going to see a very real backlash against this pernicious, vile, and destructive Marxist ideology that, if left unchecked, will indeed destroy this nation and any nation it infects forever. Now, before you go, make sure to like this video, comment down below, and subscribe to my channel. You definitely want to check out my latest video. And you also want to click on the link below and check out our really cool merch, whatever you call it. But you do want to check out my latest video on Myanmar, the government of Myanmar actually ending up banning George Soros from their nation, and confiscating his bank account in Myanmar. It's pretty fascinating. So make sure to click on the link, and I'll see you over there. God bless.